Hey, this is Todd Phillips, your online pastor and high performance coach, and I want to talk today about becoming a morning person. I was just talking to some friends of mine the other day, and one of the guys, we're sitting there having coffee, one of these guys says, I'm just not a morning person. And I cannot tell you how completely incensed I got. This is a good buddy of mine. I go, seriously? So that's a genetic flaw? You're just not a morning person? He said, yeah, I just never have been. And I gotta tell you, I hear this all the time. And I'm a morning person now, but I used to not be. Let me tell you what's interesting about this and see if you're not a morning person, let me just tell you what I found out through doing a lot of research on this. And I really have done a lot of research because when I became a morning person, it changed everything for me. Did you know that morning people tend to make more money, be more productive? Morning people tend to be happier, more satisfied, and healthier. Wow, right? I mean, really? That's what I read. When I read the research, I see that morning people tend to be all those things. And so what I want to talk about today is this idea of being a morning person. I've been studying this, as silly as it might sound, I've been studying this for a couple years, and it all started when I was about to go on a mountain climb. I do some mountaineering as a hobby, and I was actually going on a mountain climb with some church members at this church that I was serving at the time. This was 5-6 years ago. And the only time that the gentleman that I was going to be working out with, the only time he could work out was at 5 o'clock in the morning. And at the time I was staying up till 12 or 1 o'clock at night and getting up at 6:30 or 7:30 to get to work by 8. So I was a night person and not a morning person. And he just said, look, if I'm going to work you out, the only time we're going to be able to work out is at 5 a.m. And so I was like, okay. So I realized that if I was going to really have a chance at making it to the top of this really difficult mountain climb, that I needed Andrew and I was going to work out with him at 5 o'clock. And so I changed my entire life to work around meeting him at 5 o'clock in the morning. And like always, I mean, the first couple of weeks it was challenging, but it was interesting. I want to walk through what happened here. This whole story with me and Andrew working out was driven around the fact that I counted the cost. I was like, is it worth it for me to do this? And it started to get me to write down what it means and how you can shift from being a night person to a morning person, and experiencing what all these case studies are saying is that morning people are healthier, wealthier, and wise. So let me just talk to you about this. Number one, in order to be a morning person, we have to change our self-talk. We have to quit saying things like, I'm not a morning person. As silly as that sounds, it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy. We just say that's the way that we are and we can't change. The bottom line is studies show that our self-talk drives our reality. So if we say we're not a morning person, we'll adjust our behavior to fit our self-talk. So first thing that we need to do if we really want to do this, because some of us do. I've talked to so many people, I wish I could be a morning person. Well, the first thing to do is just say, I am a morning person. Self-talk is a real key issue. You know, the Bible talks about this very often about our thought life. We think of something long enough, it becomes a belief system, and that's what dictates our action. The Bible's very clear on this. So if we think on this long enough, I am a morning person, and begin to believe that we could be, it's going to dictate our action. So number one, we got to change our self-talk. Number two, we've got to allow ourselves to emotionally engage in this. Just thinking, I'll be more productive, I'll be happier, I'll be healthier. I mean, that is really what happens. And I can tell you, I can attest to this from 6 years ago when I became a morning person. It was one of the most profound shifts in my life. And I know that may sound silly to you, but it's so true. I have more energy every day. I sleep better at night. Everything has changed because I've become a morning person. And so when I started doing this, when I say number two, allow yourself to emotionally engage, when I started this, it was, I want to reach the top of that mountain. If I'm going to go on this mountain climb, I want to reach the peak. And the only way I can do that is to work out with Andrew. And the only way I can do that is to get up at 5 o'clock. And so when I looked at the wins, when I looked at the reality of what I was going to get from this, I emotionally engaged in it. So every time I got up, I thought of the summit of that mountain, and it got me up in the mornings. And I want you to understand, we got to let that win, whatever that is for you, sink in. Number three, as difficult as this sounds, go to bed at the same time every night. Structure it just like you do with the rest of your schedule. We're forced to be at work from 8 to 5 or whatever your hours are, but just going to bed at the same time every night. All the studies show that this is probably the biggest challenge for most people, is changing their sleep habits, but it's something that can be done. And so quite possibly the single most important factor determining your success at becoming a morning person is to just decide on a time to go to bed, whether that's 9 or 10 or 11, and just simply doing that every night. Number 4 is really along the same lines. Get up the same time every morning. You're going to need an alarm for this, right? And most of us use alarms anyway because we get up and go to work or go to school, whatever that is. But our body over time, science shows us that our body will self-adjust over time. Our circadian rhythms, our internal clock will adjust to that new time frame. It usually takes about 2 to 3 weeks. But if we go to bed at the same time and we get up at the same time every morning, at least Monday through Friday, our clock, our internal clock will adjust to that and we'll become morning people. And finally, number 5, and I just mentioned this, you got to allow time for the habit to take hold. Now, depending on what studies you read, it takes anywhere from 15 to 30 days to develop a habit. And so what I always say to people is just plan for 30 days. Plan for 30 days. Set your clock. I'm going to go to bed at this time. I'm going to get up in the morning at this time, and just allow that system to be put in place regardless of when you actually go to sleep at night. You start to go to bed, you prepare for bed at the same time every night and get up the same time every morning. Making that decision to stay with something for 30 days will allow you to do this. And listen, as crazy as it sounds, morning people, healthy, wealthy, and wise. So I hope you'll think about this, because everybody I've ever talked to that's changed their system, their dynamic to becoming morning people, have always said they've become morning person evangelists. And that's kind of how I feel. I hope you'll buy into this. Until we see each other again, live passionately, give generously, and impact this world for God. Hey, it's Todd. Did you get something out of the video you just watched? I really hope you did. I mean, that's my passion, to give you something that can be applied rightly to your life right now. Listen, if that happened, I want you to go right here and just click on this subscribe button, and it'll take you straight to the page so you can subscribe to my blog and get this content coming to your inbox every week. I hope you'll let me do that. I hope you'll allow us to be on this journey together. We'll see you soon.